Hello, and welcome to NORA Startup Stories. We're very pleased to have you with us today, and just know that whenever you are um, happy you take the time to join in. Did you come here to hear more about what exciting new AI startups we have in Norway? If so, you have come to the right place. There are good signs that AI in Norway is moving forward at a rapid pace. Let me just mention three major indicators. The first is the 240 million US dollar sale of the Norwegian company Spacemaker AI to Autodesk. That is 2.2 billion Norwegian kroners in November 2020. An interesting acquisition with a great likelihood of technology developed in Norway to be distributed across the world. The second point is the AI regulatory sandbox by the Norwegian government that will be launching properly this year in 2021. They recently announced the companies that will participate. The third point is an important one. The AI networks in Norway are collaborating even more closely. And they gathered together on the 14th of January recently to celebrate the one-year birthday party of the Norwegian national strategy and provide constructive feedback towards further investments in AI within academia and business. This is NORA Startup Stories, and I will be your host today. Vake and Bergen Robotics will present themselves, their activities, and share some of their struggles along the way to becoming thriving AI startups, achieving funding and growth in a competitive market. We will learn more about Nora's startup from Freyja and her work with Gründergarasjen in Simula, a place where startups and researchers meet to bring new ideas to life. This webinar ends in a plenary discussion on shared interests, experiences, pitfalls, and how we might get even better at helping more Norwegian AI startups in their journey to see them prosper in the future. So let us start with a round of introductions. I will begin, followed by the introduction of each member of this webinar. My name is Alex Moltzow, and I work for NORA. I'm currently studying a master's degree in social data science at the University of Copenhagen. My interest lies within AI policy, ethics, climate concerns, and sustainability, yet I also have a background from helping to run an accelerator focused on pre-seed startups, as well as running a small company. And the next one to introduce himself is Nils Jakob, the CEO of Bergen Robotics.
Hello, my name is Nils Jakob. I'm the CEO of Bergen Robotics, and you probably guessed that I also sit in Bergen right now. We develop AI solutions for cameras, robotics, and AI. You will probably hear more from me in a few minutes.
And the next participant is Thomas Lara.
Hi, yeah, I'm Thomas, co-founder and CEO of Vake, and we deliver maritime insights using machine learning in satellite imagery. I guess I'll get the pleasure of going more into that afterwards as well.
Brilliant. And our third participant is Freyja Jørgensen.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Freyja Jørgensen. I work as an innovation manager for Simula Research Laboratory, and I'm also happy to be the leader of the NORA Startup Steering Group. So I've been invited to join today to give you a short reminder of who we are and a short update now that we are in a new year. So I'm looking forward to join today's conversation.
Brilliant. Well, no further ado, we will start with our first speaker and presenter, which is Nils Jakob Berland, the CEO of Bergen Robotics. The floor is yours, or the Zoom is yours.
Thank you. I hope everybody see my picture, and I'm now going to share my screen and talk a bit more about what we actually do. Share. Everybody can see what see me now. What we do, that is autonomous camera systems. It might sound a bit esoteric, but that's the words we usually use. We are three people. Brett from New Zealand, PhD in mathematical physics. Me with a PhD in computer science from Bergen, and Carl Henrik. He has an automation bachelor and also been developing games. The short way to say what we do, that is we replace joysticks with AI. Camera systems, or a lot of the camera system being used, they are handled with joysticks, and we want to replace the joystick with AI. Let's show you, rather than talk a lot about theory, this is what we do. This is the real footage from a drone. We capture power lines, or rather we detect them. And the thing that is missing, that is to pinpoint the components, because this is the kind of inspection power line companies want. They want to be able to fly high speed over the power lines and take pictures of the components. It has been a long road from building drones, skipping building drones, dropping out of camera systems altogether and concentrate on the AI. The project we are involved with is a project to do this for helicopters and drones for Statnett and other network owners. The hard part here is, of course, that we do both a wide angle lens and telelens that can work together, and our AI should be able to do these things fast enough so that we can fly up to 70 kilometers an hour. The other area that we have been doing lately, that is deliver AI and robotics for broadcast. We have been working closely with a company called Electric Friends. They deliver the robots that you see behind here to TV2 and other broadcasters worldwide. What they wanted is kind of, can we do more narrow broadcast? That is, there are many people that want to have, should we say, less expensive production, because with the digital broadcasting, you can do very narrow channels, but you need to reduce the cost. So what this means that we should be able to replace the joystick. I show you a small video what we do. It might be a little bit sound here. What you see now is that the camera follows the posture of the person there. This is a demo that we did. It is in production now, being sold worldwide. So it's a cool system. The AI is kind of not that complicated itself, but making it work reliable for production, that required quite a lot of effort. The next thing is, can we capture sports like this? We are now involved in delivering camera systems that should work for within a year for sports. And then we come to the big challenges. We call that situational awareness. The AI system where everything is predictable is cool. Then you can predict this. There's only one person in the image. You know what's going to happen, and you can make the AI work exactly as you want. But the real world is usually different. It's a cool story of a company called Pixelot, Israeli company doing sports AI, and they had their camera following a person that was bald. And the AI mistook the bald head for a football. And that was kind of, it made a big splash on the internet with a lot of people laughing that this happened. And this kind of situation and awareness, that is one of the big challenges to make reliable systems. So what we do, that is we deliver AI and robotic systems that should be at least as good as manual operations. we want to deliver also reduced cost and stress for the owners of the system. And that is basically our very, very short presentation of Bergen Robotics and what we do. Okay.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Nils Jakob. Really fascinating. I look forward to getting back to this in the discussion. So our second presenter this time is Thomas Leira, which is the co-founder of Vake AI.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm on a mobile connection, so Freyja, Alex, please let me know if I break up at some point, and I'll repeat the message. So in Vake, maritime insights is what we say. Now, why the heck do we want to do that, you may ask? Because we have this ship tracking system, right, called AIS. The problem with the AIS is that it was created more than 20 years ago for anti-collision purposes, and now we're trying to use it to track ships all over the globe. And that has certain problems because it's easy to spoof, so pretend to be someone else. There are a lot of coverage gaps, even with AIS satellites. And it's easy for any captain essentially to opt out, essentially turning the tracker off. So that enables certain problematic use cases, such as smuggling of oil out of Iran into North Korea, governments that are under sanctions, essentially. But the same goes for a lot of other illegal gray area activity you want to perform at sea, such as illegal fishing. So this can be illustrated in this case. This is a commodity tanker traveling through the South China Sea. That, the green here shows AIS track, but suddenly it disappears for 20 hours. So what really happened during that period is something we help for. And the way we do that is that we've started with these multispectral satellite images. So that means they contain more information than just a visible light. In fact, there's 13 frequency bands. So we inverted some of the colors here. So this is essentially what a computer would be seeing when using these additional bands. And even with the human eye now, you can make some estimates on the relative size, direction, and speed of the ships. So that's why we think this imagery is particularly well suited for computer vision. So what we do then to run our machine learning, we need to create a good training data set first, right? So we're quite strict in selecting which AIS, which ships we include that has high quality AIS so that we can pinpoint exactly where they are in historical imagery. And that gives us the ground truth and, essentially infinite amounts of training data for various ships, so that when we feed that to our neural network, we can make our own estimations on the size and direction and, point out those ships that looks bigger than what they claim to be, or even more interestingly, those ships that are turning the trackers off. This is illustrated as well in this image, where you essentially see the specific composition of pixels for each vessel is unique, so that every time we observe a ship, we'll save it to our database. So with the idea that we'll provide more context next time we do a detection of that same vessel, even when they don't have the AIS. But that's really ultimately that's ultimately where we want to get to. So there's a lot of research involved in that. So the parameters we're starting with is the size, class, and the course of the ship. Yeah, so going back to the case from the South China Sea, we applied our ship detection algorithm in this area, and we were able to make a detection for a ship that matched the one that was missing with the historical data. But really, the system we've created, it's generic in fusing the satellite images and the AIS. So over time, we want to build models for each of the other image sources that are available as well, that includes this radar imagery, which is currently being used a lot, as well as very high resolution imagery. I hope we cover in this panel maybe is also how we're looking at customers validating the technology, actually solving use cases within the markets. This is something we struggle a lot with, at least having to explain, both AI, even before you have the results from the AI, you need to show what the benefit is to the end users. And that's really hard, I think. So in addition to that, being a satellite data company, we're targeting essentially potentially 4 different industries, and you need to find those proof points for each of them. So how do you start going about that is something that's of interest to me. As my background is in industrial economics, I worked almost 7 years in Telenor with product and business development before I got to join my 2 brilliant co-founders who really are the technical minds. They wrote their master thesis on this topic, and this is how the company got started. Just briefly about some of the traction so far. We've been acknowledged by the Norwegian space industry, by the European Space Agency. We're part of the Business Incubation Center here in Norway, as well as an award from NATO last year. We've gotten to the stage now that we are running our vessel detections, and we're opening for beta trials together with users to essentially dig in and find the specific value that we deliver. That essentially concludes my presentation. I just want to touch on one more point because it goes a little bit to what Nils Jakob spoke about, essentially edge AI. I mean, the longer term vision for Vake is to find any ship on Earth from space, and we want to do this in real time. And it's really this real time aspects that's the hardest one, because currently, you need to downlink all the data before you can analyze it. Images taken, saved on the satellite, you need to downlink it at one of the bigger base stations before the data is centralized, and then we can do our analysis. So there are lead times in doing this, which is essentially from a couple of hours up to a day even. So what we envision for the future is running a downscaled version on board the satellite, essentially running the analysis right there and then, so that all you're left with is the detections of the vessel's lat-longs timestamp, and that's essentially all you send back. So you don't have to rely on these big downlink stations to do this. All right, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Thomas. This is really it's really interesting to have these 2 different AI startups with different applications of the technology. And Freyja, working with a lot of different AI startups, how do you go about doing that when they have so many different requirements or interests in developing their technology?
Yes, that is a good question, Alex. But I think often it's got a lot to do with connecting the right people with each other at the right time, and try and help both researchers and startups see the synergies where they exist, and facilitate for closer dialogue. So that actually brings me to perhaps just to repeat a bit what NORA and NORA.startup are aiming to work for. If we have some minutes for that now, Alex, I can share that. Yeah, perfect. So just a reminder, NORA is the Norwegian Artificial Intelligence Research Consortium, consisting of in a total of nine partners, 7 universities and 2 research institutions in Norway. And NORA.startup, or NORA is focusing on enhancing research and education, but also innovation within the area of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and robotics. And as a part of their innovation focus, NORA.startup was established last fall. And we had a kickoff in the end of September. Some of you might have tuned in on that one, actually. And if not, it is available online, like all our other webinars, just to mention that as well. During the fall, we were lucky to put together also a steering group consisting of 7 people representing both the research and startup environment. So we are a very complementary group working there to build this network forward. Our main goal is to build a national innovation network focusing on research-based innovation, and where we wish to facilitate for closer and perhaps also easier interaction between startups and researchers, also students, within the field of AI in Norway. And with this, try to strengthen the growth of strong startups and help them scale further, and also see perhaps more startups get established in the future. We're still in a very early stage, but we are now heading into a development phase. Currently we have got 11 startup members. As you see here today, Vake and Bergen Robotics are 2 of them, and then we have an overview on our websites for the rest. And we have more in the loop, and of course are open for applications. So just reach out to us if this sounds interesting, and apply if you are a startup focusing or building your project based on research, building your company based on research. And of course, now that we are in a new year and spent the fall getting feedback from our first members, we are now in the process of planning more specific activities to deliver up on these challenges and wishes that our members have encountered. And these activities, they will be related to topics like funding, collaborations, examples here, and how to actually do this in practice, investment possibilities, and more. And another very exciting aspect of NORA.startup is also that we, together with NORA and their network, are working on making access to a new HPC infrastructure in Norway more available, not just for researchers, but also for startups. So this is a very interesting point that we are working with together with the Uninet Sigma 2, as they are called. So stay tuned, because we will be following up with more activities during 2021. But as always, high quality is important for us. So we focus more on quality rather than quantity. And if you would like to get in touch, to take a chat, see if you want to collaborate or become a member, please check out our websites, NORA.ai, for more information, or get in touch with either me or some of the others listed on the website. So yes, and I'd be happy to join in on the further discussion, Alex, of course.
Yeah. I think we've come now to the plenary discussion section, which certainly, hopefully, is the most exciting, because this gives you the opportunity to ask a lot of questions of these 2 startups. And we have received 2 questions already in the chat. So I thought I would start with those. And the first of those 2 is addressed to Thomas. And this is quite an interesting one, actually. Do you provide an open API where we can get ship ID from you? So clearly there are more people interested in this area. So do you have any answer?
Yeah, that's very good. Yes, we do have an API. It's not per se open, so you'll need to get in touch with us to set that up. But definitely we're very eager to start that conversation. And ultimately, we're eager to learn also more about the actual use cases for which this is relevant. So definitely open to that. Should I move to the next one as well, or?
Yeah. I think you got actually 2 questions there. Can
Exactly.
you estimate ID of the vessel if you don't have an updated AIS signal? And for listeners, it might be worth mentioning that AISD is the automatic identification system. It's an automatic tracking system that uses transceivers on ships and is used by vessel traffic services.
exactly. That's correct. So that ultimately that's the goal, to use only the image as the identifier and the unique combination of pixels that I touched upon in the presentation. But as of now, we would still need to refer back to the AIS to see which ships disappear. And based on that, we can provide some likelihood of which vessels they are, but so we can make some estimations, but not confirmations, if you will.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And to Nils Jakob, you've been part of several research projects and startups. And how many people have been involved in Bergen Robotics over the last few years? Because I was looking at quite a few of the research projects, and it must have been quite a few. So with all those people and all those exciting projects, how do you kind of prioritize, and how do you kind of balance this time?
No, I think that, we started out with doing big drones with eSmart systems and even sent drones to America. And that was quite a challenge, but it's also a kind of thing that you, then at the most we were 6 people. But it's very, the Chinese and Koreans build terrific drones. And we realized that the building hardware was not something that we could compete with. So we skipped that and we said, let's focus on the most valuable thing, which is the software. And then we dropped down to just 3 people, and that's, we will probably expand again, but no, we have found this is what we're going to do, because you can, when we started out, we kind of were not aware of how complicated these things were, to be honest. So then we got a bit more narrow. So now we say these 3 things we do, and we don't want to do anything anything that is not related to it. And then we usually have a toolbox that is all. There's one project, though, that we have not talked about. That is analyzing ice in the Northeast Passage from drones. But we don't fly the drones. We are only going to do the software. So that's a research project with Maritime Robotics and Nansen Center.
I see. Yeah, because I mean, these type of startups, Freyja, that work within artificial intelligence, they kind of are in the intersection of often within like research and commercial application, right? I do think that is the case for both of these startups. And kind of how does the requirements for these kind of AI startups differ, like in a way, because you've seen these other startups, like what do you find like is the typical cases that you see, or like in terms of firstly, I think talent is important. That's something we discussed one of the other startup seminars, but also wise, do as was said, this time and the priorities between this commercial requirements of clients and partners and the important focus on research. Any thoughts about that?
Well, it's like you say, Alex. In order to grow an AI company in a good and prospective way with growth, it's very often very important to have a lot of specific technical expertise in the team, because AI is, I mean, it's absolutely a very interesting field and a very quickly growing field, but it's also a very diverse and quite advanced field, and within the field there's often a lot of the work is often related to big data sets and so forth, so you really need a solid tech competence on the team, in addition to the business part, and able to actually scale this in a sustainable way. And I'm sure both Thomas and Nils Jakob can kind of confirm that. I see they're nodding. And naturally, some companies like Nils Jakob's are lucky where they start their company where the people, the core team already consists of, say, both people with research background or background from academia themselves over several years, in addition to maybe experience from business, which is already a very good match. For others, it might be the opposite. They might have a very strong technical team, but they're lacking the business part and need to find talent from that end. But also it could be that they have the idea and they have a more business and industry experience, but they need stronger tech competence. And I think what NORA.startup also wants to work for with building this innovation network is to make it easier for these two groups to get in touch with each other and to help them also navigate in this big academic environment as well, because it's not always easy to actually combine the right people, find the right people who are also from both ends interested to work with some of the countries or also internationally leading experts in the field and also have an interest in business. So it's a very, because if you look at research and business is two different languages as well. So it's a very, very useful and highly important connection, but also a challenging one. And NORA.startup wants to work on making this barrier easier to approach. And I believe we will see way more of these interactions in the future, also with regards to where the European programs are laying their focus. But it would actually be interesting to hear from, if I may, Alex, to hear from Nils and Thomas a bit on, because as you say, they're research-based startups, and that's also one of the criteria to become a member in NORA.startup. But it would be interesting to hear maybe from Nils Jakob and Thomas how you have experienced this exact thing, because you both bring in a lot of experience from industry. You've both worked in Telenor, I believe, and at the same time, your teams are a little bit differently put together with your co-workers. And for instance, Nils Jakob has the benefit of coming also from academia over several years. So it would be interesting to perhaps hear a bit from you two, how you view this importance between connecting these two groups, but maybe also where the challenges may lay, or how you have experienced it in addition to the actual possibilities.
Okay, I can probably start. I have a background from research. My background includes also being a program manager for security in Telenor Research and Development. But the difficult thing is that, especially for this finding power lines project, is that there is no existing models. So we spent 2 man-years designing our own neural networks. That was kind of, and that is, when we talk about AI, it's so easy to think that this is simple. We just take some AI and we do it, but it's not simple if you have to start from scratch. The other project with people, then you can choose dozens of models ready, and it's just to tune it a bit, but you don't have to train your own models. And that's kind of the big difference between the project, if you have to train your own models or not. So in that way, having Brett with a PhD in mathematical physics and understanding of all these things, it was a great thing that we actually had access to people with that knew how to do proper research. So I think that it's kind of, if you work in an area where the AI models exist, it's one thing. If you have to reinvent a lot yourself, it's a different thing. Yeah.
So if I can comment a bit as well, because I sort of recognize that, a lot of, at least people not experienced in machine learning and what you can achieve with it, it's easy to think, if only we could make an AI that could solve this problem, right? But it's never that easy, right? You need to work backwards to see exactly the steps you need to get there, what technologies to use, all of that. But at the other end of that, this is where we started, and it sounds like that's where you started as well, Ms. Jakob. We're starting with a we're starting with the technology, right? And then, at least for our sake, we've been trying to find the problem that we can solve for, and that's not necessarily any easier either, right? So, speaking to the question I just received, we want to get to identification of vessels from images, right? But getting there with AI, it'll take years before you're actually solving it at a consistent level, I think. And so we're trying to build the proof points that that the steps getting there actually also has business value, right? And that's something we struggle with every day, trying to match the user needs, the observations of the problems we see with what we can actually solve, tomorrow.
Yeah, I think, it's one thing is business value, but I think, the value for society. We're talking about the kind of illegal fishing that you mentioned, the IUU, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, estimated to cost $23 billion a year, referencing kind of your own information there. But what I would kind of wonder about is, like, if you're going to work with the government, how do you go about doing that? I think the government of Norway launched this startup program, start off, not startup, but and that's supposed to make collaborating with startups easier, but working with governments, right? How are you going to do that? Are you doing it already? Tell us about this.
Yeah, it's so we started, Adrian and Lars delivered their master thesis in 2018. The company was incorporated in 2019. And essentially, it's taken us these years to get to know some of the key people in these government organizations. So that's also another thing that makes this really hard, is building those relationships over time. So we've been trying to, and speaking to illegal fishing, which is a problem we're talking a lot about, but there too, okay, governments is one market. You have the NGOs who might have a more immediate need of it. We've been working with a company called Global Fishing Watch to try and help solve for this in a more immediate term. But they don't necessarily have the funding to help you, to build a business on. So this is what I mean with, starting with the technology. You need to still be flexible as a startup to sort of explore exactly which business and problem you land on, I think. So it's very important to try and do that discovery work. And that takes time.
I'm a bit curious, Thomas. Are you saying that you actually started off with a hammer and were looking for nails?
Something to that fact. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. And a nice question, Nils Jakob, and then good to have some fun around these things as well, because this is a lot of fun as well as being challenging.
But can I comment on that?
Definitely.
We had the reason why we started the company originally, because we actually had a deal with a big Norwegian company to do mapping of mobile signals globally. So we had made the prototypes, and we built everything, so everything was ready to go out in the world and do mapping of mobile signals worldwide, except for one thing. The company that we had signed all these agreements were stopped working. So we had the competence, we had people, and what did we do? So we had this hammer, and the nail was gone. And when we found another nail.
Nice. Well, you mentioned Nils Jakob, if I heard correctly, also internationally. Do you have any experience within like your customer groups? Have you also been working a bit internationally, and do you have any experiences with that, also being a Norwegian established company within this field?
No, I must admit, well, we have been talking with people in the US, but we are not gone there. We're not there yet.
Can I just bring you back to about testing models? The pixel story that you told is hilarious. Trying to track something, and then suddenly it's not tracking the football, it's tracking the ball guy. Have you had any kind of interesting moments testing your own models?
No, not yet. Not yet. But it's when you train your models on hours and hours of video footage from mountains in Norway, you don't find that much interesting things to do. But it is hard, and especially light, because lighting conditions make all the recognition really hard. Because you're supposed to find it regardless of weather. If it's sunshine or lot of shadows and all these things. So of course, our models have been looking for shadows and not the real thing. So but we have not had these embarrassing moments where we discover the wrong things.
I'm sure they will come.
Yes.
But Thomas, I mean, just following up on this, because when Nils Jacob said this thing about the hard to track, I just immediately thought about dark vessels, right? I mean, this problem that the industry has been struggling with for such a long time, how are you going to kind of approach that? How are you going to solve it in a way? Because you mentioned it during your presentation, but I just wanted to hear more because it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, so I think the problem for us isn't necessarily, well, it is our problem, but maybe not the main problem is finding these dark vessels in this imagery. It's actually about who can use it and what will they use it for. So again, going back to having the technology first and then trying to find the nail, if you will. That's exactly sort of to me that's almost just as a hard problem as finding those dark vessels. But anyway, what we do specifically is that we correlate the known AIS positions, and using the vessel detections themselves, we find all vessels in the image, so we can give a time stamp for those specific ones.
No, sorry if you were not finished.
No, I was done on that part. I just see there's a question from the open Q&A as well.
Exactly, that was actually the reason why I tuned in now, to follow up now that you were speaking, Thomas. So there is just so the audience also gets this question here to Thomas and Vake. So for a company like Vake, revenues may be a bit away. How do you sustain? Can you share a bit about like fundraising or sustaining yourself until you have revenues?
Yeah, so for us, this has been very much a hybrid solution of a private investment, support from Innovation Norway in the initial phases, and also to some extent in Europe and in the EU, there are either research projects, or in the case for satellite companies, there's also certain grants or projects you can do together with the European Space Agency that will help you fund your work. The downside being, for us at least, for the European projects, there's a lot of, well, first of all, you need to find all these applications, you need to actually put down the time to apply for them, and then you need to report on the results, right? So this eats up quite a lot of time, which I would say, if you're taking a private investment from venture capital in the US, you don't have to struggle with that, a bureaucracy of filling in a report, but you still, I think there's a glorified impression of what that is as well, because these guys work 14 hours a day and they need to update their investors weekly, if not daily, right? So there's a balance between all of that, and that's really just up to the team and the company to decide, I think. I don't know if you have any other experiences, Nils Jakob. I imagine you have some of the same struggles.
People ask us, how have you been able to finance it? And we say we have been eating oat porridge. We don't have any investors.
Yeah, but I mean, what I found really interesting, Nils Jakob, is that you have kind of been through several startups, right? Because I had a quick look at your background, and that's really interesting. Kind of what kind of experiences or like mistakes or opportunities have you seen, kind of based on your experience? Because it is, it's really they do list that if you if you should be kind of like looking at successful entrepreneurs, they usually go through quite a few companies, and like you have been through a few now, you know. So is this the home run? You know, like what mistakes did you make before? Super interested to hear about that.
So we try to find new ways to fail. Maybe it's really hard, these things, to hit exactly the thing you should do. We more than 20 years ago, we did automatic metering for smart homes before many people thought it was possible, and it was a total disaster because the equipment was too expensive and hard to work with. That was with some small companies called Ericsson, Telenor, and Statoil. But
I guess they wish they would have continued that now, right?
Yes,
to some extent.
but we all thought this is going to happen real soon, and it was big fun. But this thing that I realized with startups is that you should hit the right thing, you should meet the right people, you should talk the right things, and it's not. I'm not saying that funding is unimportant, but you need to hit all these things simultaneously, technology and so on. So and probably the best thing that have happened to us is that that our hammer was good, and we found the right nail.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think that was a really good answer.
Absolutely. I see we've received another question here, and thanks very much to the audience for following up with questions. We much appreciate that, of course. This is actually an open question to all four of us as I read it, but I can start by addressing the question. And the question is as a follow-up question. So this is from a person who has attended many NORA webinars, and their impression is that it's a lot about deep science and research-based startups, which is, yes, correct. Both in NORA.startup, that is the focus, because we wish to deliver at a high professional level, and this means that they often will have a longer gestation period to finance. So the question is also, are there any NORA interventions to support venture or facilitate funding? So I will gladly answer a bit openly on that from the NORA side, and then I'd be happy to receive input from perhaps especially these two companies in how a network such as us, and maybe also others, can help facilitate this process even easier. Yes, the short answer to the question is yes. NORA.startup do aim on having this as one of the areas where we might be able to help startups. So in addition to connecting startups with strong experts within research and also students from academia, we are planning on activities where we also can facilitate for interaction between AI-specific investors and our member startups. So also worth mentioning, like you say here in the question, yes, this does take time, and especially for startups working within this field with deep tech and so forth, and research based, it does take time, and many of the members in the NORA startup network, they have already existed for some years, so they have already been working for some years before they actually have started to reach a certain level of quality, and now we're kind of going to help them forward in the years to come also for scaling easier. But yes, we do hope to facilitate for interaction with investors as well. And which reminds me, if there are any investors here tuning in today or from environments with focus on that type of things, please feel free to get in touch with us in NORA Startup, and we can see if we can facilitate dialogue or contribute in common events some way or the other.
Yeah, because I mean, also it's really in these kind of deep tech startups, the soft funding is incredibly important, and I think there is, really a lot of soft funding from both Norway and the EU within this towards this direction as well. So the research and innovation project applications from NFR, the Norwegian Research Council, Innovation Norway. And being aware of what opportunities that you have as well, like within that network is really important. But also, as Freyja mentioned earlier, like the HPC, right, the high performance computing, like these type of startups, they need data processing, and if we can get them that in an easier way, and like if we can try to facilitate that, that is ideally kind of one of the things that it seems like NORA.startup really wants to do as well. How can we make it easier for the startups to do well in developing their products?
Absolutely.
So just to finish off, because like I know this question, because it really leads well into a question that Morten asks that is kind of complementary to this, because he usually asks towards the end, like which role should NORA.startup have in your kind of company as well? What should they do? And I think we can kind of combine this a little bit by another question from the audience there, and that's sort of like, what are the bottlenecks of AI startup, right? Because I feel like that those mesh quite well together as well. Like, so and this is a bit of a brainstorm as well for NORA.startup, because like we want to help all the startups better, and I think Freyja is doing really amazing and sort of like trying to address that. But this is also the chance for you to like say, what should NORA.startup prioritize? And I think we will start with Thomas, because he's been waiting.
I have some input on that and a couple of thoughts. I mean, the bottleneck in a lot of cases, I think, is, can you build it? Is it actually possible to build it? And how accurate or how well is your AI going to perform, right?
Yeah. Is this a Bob the Builder approach, or sorry, it's like, can we build it? Yes, we can. Or...
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to say that, but please continue. Please continue.
Yeah. Definitely, but definitely Bob the Builder is a hero, right? But anyway, so the bottleneck is our biggest struggle in the initial phase is convincing not just investors, but also Innovation Norway that we are the right people and that we actually can build this. So in that sense, we had a great player along the way, which was actually the Norwegian Space Agency for us, because we're using satellite data. So they were able to lend some credibility, saying towards, hey, these guys know what they're doing. We believe they can do this. Innovation Norway, you should see what you can do to help these guys get started. And I think really that's, if NORA.startup could in some way lend credibility or give credibility essentially to the companies that either are a part of it, considering starting up, some way of actually, saying to the investors, hey, we really believe in these guys. We think they can build, we think they can actually solve this. That would be incredibly valuable in the starting phases. Also, either investors or Innovation Norway or other grants, I think.
Absolutely, thank you for the input, Thomas. Just very quickly for mine to follow up on that before we give the word to Nils Jakob, and also because I see Klaas, who is the CEO and NORA, commented it also in the chat here. I might have misunderstood the former question slightly, because of course it was not just with the focus on investors, but funding in general, and as Thomas also mentioned here now, like actors such as Innovation Norway and NFR, Norsk Forskningsråd. But also what's going on towards the EU funding system. And to highlight this perhaps even more than the investor part as well, is that NORA.startup, through their network with lots of experience within this field also, will definitely work to try and support startups and startup research collaborations in order to easier find where the possibilities lay and what is actually needed to pursue such a process in praxis.
Yeah, brilliant. So Nils Jakob, which role should NORA.startup have? What bottlenecks do you see? Bring it on.
Until now, I have been basically trying to understand what question should I ask to you. I already sent you a question. That is, can you really good supervisor for his master. Because it's not just easy to get the people you want for a supervisor in Norway that you really want. So far, we are quite well connected in Bergen with the media city Bergen, and they have helped us a lot with the soft funding, Innovation Norway, etc. Because it seems that because we are such a weird technology company that we need some people to interpret for them. And
interpretation is important.
Yeah, and it's even though I think we always have been thinking that it's so obvious that our solutions are the most important things in the world, it's not easy to get Innovation Norway and other entities to understand these things. But maybe they shouldn't. So as far as I have understood, the real benefit of NORA is networking so far for us. And you mentioned, I learned one important thing today, and that is you can also probably help us to get resources for training our networks, because that takes a lot of effort to do. So but this networking thing, the thing that is really shit, the name is COVID, because we should have been together and have coffee and been talking much more. So we're looking forward to really explore what you can do in terms of network when the COVID thing is over.
Yes, absolutely. And we definitely, like everyone else, are facing that exact challenge. So as of now, we're doing the best we can as it is, and of course we are looking forward to physically being able to gather and mingle in a more normal situation.
I will really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to round this off as well in a way, because yes, we are now digitally at this webinar, but I think we're all looking forward to the time when we can meet again and and talk to each other and be excited about these developments in the field of artificial intelligence, because it is exciting. I mean, what you are doing is incredibly, it's not only fascinating from this kind of research perspective, I mean, which it of course is, but it is also kind of interesting because of, the societal impact, as well, what will happen if we can, more sustainably think about how we manage, fish, and how we manage our waters. That's something that we're struggling with, and it's an acute issue. It's something that will impact not only us but also future generations. So, and if AI can contribute to that to some small extent, then we've kind of done our job, right? I think, and with Bergen Robotics as well, and like this. There's so many issues in like power grids and like with like the repairs as well along those grids. It's very costly to society, so the cost is very high as well, and I think it's the sustainable management of grid lines. If we can do this, like there's two important solutions there. And I think, if we can come together and be excited and learn from each other, that's, what we have to do to make these things happening, and like to also contribute to society. So yeah, I just want to thank you both as well for participating, Nils Jakob and Thomas, and also Freyja for finding these amazing startups that I hadn't heard about before you mentioned them in the network. So
I also want to thank the steering group. They are definitely part of this.
Yeah, it's also an amazing steering group in NORA.startup with people from different startup accelerators and with different environments. And also thank you to the audience for coming here today online and taking the time to listen to us. And this will be posted online, so you can definitely listen to it later, share it, and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to round off here, and thank you so much for attending NORA Startup Stories.
Thank you.